the Silver Hoof. There lived an old man in our factory, nicknamed Kokovani. Kokovani had no family left, so he came up with the idea of taking an orphan girl as his child. He asked the neighbors if they knew anyone, and the neighbors said, "Recently, the family of Grigory Potopayev became orphans." The senior steward ordered the older girls to be taken to the noble sewing workshop, but one little girl, who was only 6 years old, was unwanted by anyone. The steward ordered the older girls to the workshop, but a 6-year-old girl was unwanted. And one little girl, who was only 6 years old, was unwanted by anyone. "So you should take her?" "I'm not comfortable with the girl. The boy was better. I could teach him my trade, raise him as an assistant. But what about the girl? What will I teach her?" Then he thought and said, "What am I even going to teach her?" Then he thought and said, "I knew Grigory, and I knew his wife too. I knew Grigory, and I knew his wife too. They were both cheerful and clever. And his wife too. Both were cheerful and agile. If the little girl takes after her parents, it won't be dull in the house with her. I'll take... But will she fit in?" The neighbors explain. Her life is tough. The steward gave Grigory's house to some drunkard and ordered him to take care of the orphan girl in return, feed her till she grows up. But he has his own family with more than a dozen members. They eat the leftovers themselves. So the mistress is getting angry at the orphan. He scolds her with a piece of something. Well, she's small, but she understands. It's hurtful for her. How can she not be affected by such a life? Yeah, and you can convince her, wild as she is. That's true. She responds like a stubborn mule. I'll manage to convince her somehow. On the holiday, he came to the people where the orphan girl was living. He sees the house is full of people, both big and small. By the stove there's a little girl sitting, and next to her is a brown cat. The little girl is small, and the cat is small too, so thin and tattered that hardly anyone would let such a creature into their house. The little girl is petting the cat, and the cat purrs so loudly that it's heard all over the house. Ivan looked at the little girl and asked, "That's your Grigorieva's little gift?" The mistress replies, "That's one." It's not enough to have just one. She even picked up a scruffy cat from somewhere. We can't drive her away. All my kids got scratched up. And on top of that, feed her. That's how they talk about Vanya. Ungracious, it seems, are your kids. Look, she's purring. Then he asked the orphan girl, "So, how about it, little gift? Will you come live with me?" The little girl was surprised. "You, Grandpa, how did you know that they call me Little Gift?" "Yeah, that's how it is," she replies. "It just happened. I didn't think, didn't guess, just ended up here by chance." "Who are you anyway?" the little girl asks. "I," he says, "seem to be a hunter. In the summer, I wash the sands and mine for gold, and in the winter, I run through the forests chasing after a goat. Yeah, I can't see everything." "Are you going to shoot him?" "No," replies Kokovani. "I shoot ordinary goats, but I won't shoot this one. I just want to see where he stomps with his right front leg. I want to take a look. Where he stomps with his right front leg. What do you need that for?" "But if you come to live with me, I'll tell you everything." The little girl became curious to learn about the goat. And the old man sees her, cheerful and affectionate. She says, "I'll go. But you have to take this cat, Morenka, too. Look how nice she is." Kokovani replies that there's really nothing to say about it. You can't just leave such a ringing cat behind, or you'll be a fool. Instead of a balalaika, we'll have it in our hut. The mistress hears their conversation, glad Radokonika that Avanya is calling the little orphan to him. She quickly started gathering Darinka's belongings. She is afraid that the old man might change his mind. The cat seems to understand the whole conversation too. It rubs against his legs and purrs. He thought it through correctly, that's right. And so Avanya took the little orphan to live with him. He's big and bearded, while she is tiny with a little button nose. They walk down the street, and the scruffy little cat hops along behind them. And so they started living together. They walk down the street, and the little cat, all ragged, jumps after them. And so they started living together, little Kavan, the orphan Darinka, and the cat Morenka. They lived and thrived, didn't accumulate much wealth, but they didn't complain about their life, and everyone had their own tasks. When Avanya left for work in the morning, Darinka would tidy up the house, cook soup and porridge, while the cat Morenka went hunting, catching mice, and everyone had their own tasks. When Avanya left for work in the morning, Darinka was tidying up the house, cooking soup and porridge, while the cat Morenka went hunting, catching mice. By evening, they would gather and have a good time. The old man was a master at telling stories. Darinka loved listening to these tales, while the cat Morenka lay there purring. "That's right," he says. "That's right." Only after every story does Darinka remind him, "Grandpa, tell me about the goat. What is he like?" At first, Kavan tried to avoid it, but then he told the story. "That goat is special. He has a silver hoof on his right front leg. In what place does he stomp with that hoof? There, a precious stone will appear. If he stomps one stone, then 2 stones, and where he starts to stomp with his foot, there will be a pile of precious stones." He said this, but then he didn't feel happy about it. And where he starts to stomp with his foot, there will be a pile of precious stones. He said that, but then he didn't feel happy about it. Since then, Darinka only talked about that goat. "Grandpa, is he big?" Kavan told her that the goat is no taller than a table, with thin little legs. "Grandpa, is he big?" Kavan told her that the goat is no taller than a table, with thin little legs. The head is light, and Darinka asks again, "Grandpa, does he have horns?" The head is light, and Darinka asks again, "Grandpa, does he have horns?" "As for the horns," replies, "they're exceptional. Regular goats have 2 branches, but this one has 5 branches." "Grandpa, what does he eat?" "He doesn't eat anyone," he replies. "He feeds on grass and leaves. Well, he also nibbles on hay in the stacks during winter." "Grandpa, what kind of fur does he have?" "In summer it's brown, like our little eel, and in winter it's gray." In the fall, Kavan started to get ready to go into the forest. He should have looked to see where the goats graze the most. Darinka is asking to go along. "Take me with you, Grandpa. Maybe I'll at least see that little goat from a distance." Kokovani explains to her, "You can't really make him out from a distance. In the fall, all the goats have horns, and you can't tell how many branches they have on them. In winter, it's a different story. Regular goats go without horns in winter, but this one, with silver hooves, always has horns, whether it's summer or winter. Then you can recognize him from a distance." That's how he got out of it. Darinka stayed at home, while Kavan went into the forest. After about 5 days, Kavan returned home and told Darinka, "These days, there are a lot of goats grazing in the midday side. That's where I'll go in winter." "But how?" Darinka asks. "Are you going to spend the night in the forest during winter?" "There," he replies, "I have a winter shack. A crooked little shack has been set up. It's a nice shack with a hearth and a little window. It's nice there." Darinka asks again. Grandpa, is the goat with the silver hoof grazing in that same area? Who knows? Maybe he is there too. Darinka then started asking to go. Take me with you, Grandpa. I'll sit in the shack. Maybe the goat with the silver hoof will come close. I'll take a look. The old man first waved his hands. What are you talking about? Is that a proper thing to do? In winter, a little girl walking in the forest? You need to ski, but you don't know how. You'll get stuck in the snow. How will I be with you? You'll freeze. But Darinka just won't give up. Take me, Grandpa. I know a little bit about skiing. How Vanya tried to talk him out of it. He kept trying, and then he thought to himself, will you take her there? Once she'll go, she won't ask to go anywhere else. And here he is saying, all right, I'll take you. But remember, don't cry in the forest and don't ask to go home until it's time. As winter fully set in, they started getting ready to go into the forest. He packed like Vanya, the sleds, some crackers, and 2 bags. Supplies, hunting gear, and other things. What he needs. Darinka also tied a little bundle for herself. She took a little piece of cloth to sew a dress for her doll, a ball of thread, a needle, and also some rope. Is it possible, they wonder, with this rope? Catch the silver hoof. It's a pity that Darinka has to leave her cat. Yeah, what can you do? She strokes the cat goodbye, talking to her. We're going to the forest, Marenka, with Grandpa. And you stay home, catch mice. As soon as we see the silver hoof, we'll come back. I'll tell you everything then. The cat is watching slyly while purring to herself. You thought of it right. That's right. Let's go, like Vanya and Darinka. All the neighbors are talking. The old man has lost his mind. He took such a little girl into the forest in winter. How did they stand, like Vanya and Darinka, to come out of the water? The little dogs heard something and got really agitated. They raised such a bark and squeal as if they had seen a beast in the streets. They looked around, and there was Morenka, running in the middle of the street, fending off the dogs. By that time, Morenka had gotten better. She had grown big and healthy. The little dogs don't even dare to approach her. Darinka wanted to catch the cat and take her home. But where would you go? The cow ran all the way to the forest. Yeah, and to the pine? Go catch her. Darinka called out, but she couldn't lure the cat. What to do? They went further. They see Darinka running off to the side. And so she made it to the booth. And so there were 3 of them in the booth. Darinka is bragging. It's more fun like that, how Vanya is nodding along. It's definitely more fun. And the cat Morenka curled up into a ball by the stove and is purring loudly. You're right, you're right. There were a lot of goats that winter. It's just that Vanya would bring 1 or 2 of them to the booth every day. They had accumulated a lot of skins, goat meat, and they couldn't take it away on the hand sleds. They should go to the factory for a horse. But how to leave Darinka with the cat in the forest? And Darinka has gotten used to the forest. She even tells the old man herself. They should go to the factory for a horse. Grandpa, go to the factory for a horse. And Darinka has gotten used to the forest. She even tells the old man herself. Grandpa, you should go to the factory for a horse. Need to take the salted meat home. Even Vanya was surprised. What a smart girl you are, Darya Grigorievna. As the big one figured it out. Just be careful, go alone. What is there to be afraid of? In Vologda, we are strong. The wolves can't get to us. And the Moray Eel is with me. I won't be afraid. But you should hurry up and move around a bit. Kokovani has left. Darinka is left with the Moray Eel. During the day, it was usual to sit without Kokovani while he was keeping an eye on the goats. As it started to get dark, she was getting anxious. She's just watching. The Moray cat lies quietly. Darinka cheered up. She sat by the window, looking towards the crooked horses, and sees something coming from the forest. A little ball is rolling. As it got closer, she saw it was a goat running. Thin little legs, a light head, and 5 branches on each horn. Darinka ran out to take a look. But there's no one here. I waited and waited. She returned along the path and said, I must have dozed off. That's what it seemed to me. The Moray Eel is purring. You're right, you're right. Darinka lay down next to the cat, and she fell asleep until morning. Another day has passed. He didn't come back, just like Vanya. Darinka started to feel a bit bored, but she's not crying. She strokes the Moray Eel and keeps talking to it. Don't be sad, little Moray. Grandpa will definitely come tomorrow. The Moray Eel is singing its little song. Don't be sad, little Moray. Grandpa will definitely come tomorrow. Morenka sings her song. You're right, you're right. Darinushka sat by the window again, admiring the stars. She wanted to sleep, to lie down. Suddenly there was a patter along the wall. Darinka got scared. Oh, the patter. Across the other wall, then along the one with the little window. Then where the door is. And then it started tapping from above. Not loud, like someone light and quick is walking. Darinka is wondering, is that the goat? The one from yesterday came running. And she wanted to take a look so much that she wasn't even scared anymore. She opened the little door and looked, and there was the goat, right up close. He lifted his right front leg, and look, he's going to stomp. And on it, the silver hooves are shining. And the goat has 5 horns on the branches. Darinka doesn't know what to do, but she calls to him like he's a pet. Ba, ba. The goat just laughed at that, turned around, ran away. Darinushka came to Bagan, Morenka tells. I looked at the silver hooves and the horns. I saw them, and I saw the hooves. I just didn't see how that little goat was. He stomps with his foot, precious stones, knocking them out. Maybe next time he'll show them. Morenka, knowing her little song, sings, You're right, you're right. 3 days have passed, and still there's no sign of her. Darinka was completely clouded over. Tears were dripping down. I wanted to talk to the Moray Eel, but she's not here. Darinka got really scared here. She ran out of the balagan to look for the cat. It's a moonlit night, bright, you can see far. Darinka is looking. The cat is nearby, sitting on a slanted log, and in front of her is the goat. It stands there, lifting its little foot, and on it a silver hoof is shining. Morenka shakes her head, and Kozel does too, as if they are talking. Then they started running around on the slanted logs. The goat runs and runs, then stops, and it starts to stomp with its little hoof. The Moray Eel runs up, the goat jumps back and starts stomping again. They ran around on the slanted logs for a long time, and then they disappeared from sight. Then they returned right back to the balagan. Then the goat jumped onto the roof and started stomping on it with its silver hoof. like sparks flying from under its little foot, the pebbles scattered. Red, blue, green, turquoise, all kinds. By this time, he had just returned from the forge. He can't recognize his own balagan, and he became like a heap of precious stones. It just burns, shimmering with different lights. The goat is standing up there, stomping away with its silver hoof, and the stones keep falling, just falling. Suddenly, Morenka jumped up there, stood next to the goat, meowed loudly, and neither Morenka nor the silver hoof were gone. Azavanya immediately scooped up half a hatful of stones. Yes, Darinka asked for it. Don't touch, Grandpa, tomorrow during the day. We'll take a look at that too. Kokovani obeyed. By morning, a lot of snow had fallen, covering all the stones. They shoveled through the snow later, but found nothing. But that was enough for them. How much Kokovan scooped into his hat. Everything would be fine, but it's a pity for the Moray Eel. We never saw her again, and the Silver Hoof didn't show up either. Once amused and that's it. And there, along the crooked paths where the goat had jumped, people started finding little stones. The green ones are more, they're called chrysolites. Did you see that?